Okay, we're here today talking with Mark Harle. Pleasure to have you down, Mark.
Huh?
Could you give us a little bit of your background?
I was born in Seattle, 1948. I was, my parents, let's see, 48, 50, in 52, my mom and dad got divorced. Abandoned, or left 3 kids. My mom took off. My dad couldn't raise us, he was a traveling musician. Can't raise kids picking bars every night. So we went into foster homes and orphanage. 1954, we were finally at 55, we were adopted. Came to Wenatchee. My older sister and my brother and I were all adopted by the same people. Very hard to find somebody that'll adopt 3 kids that have never had kids. My dad was 49 years old when he took on 3 kids. Pretty much set in his way. He had his own construction business. He was a veteran of the World War II. But he took time and took the energy and to adopt 3 kids. So my first grade I went to Columbia School here in Wenatchee, just up the street. Second grade opened up and they opened up St. Joseph's School. My dad and mom were very devout Catholics and very much a part of that school. And so my older sister was the first 4th grader. I was the first 2nd graders in there, and my brother was the first grade class at St. Joe's. And went on through there till 1963 when I decided I wanted to go to seminary. So I went to the St. Peter and Paul ceremony down in Yakima. At Chaffee Church had a little one there. And made it till Christmas of '66 and decided I had had enough and didn't want to go on anymore in the seminary. So I came home and I got to go to school in Chicago, Illinois. My aunt and uncle lived out there, and there was an all-boys boarding school that her kids had gone to, but as day students, they didn't have to stay at school. So I went out there for the rest of my senior year, graduated, came home, went out to Wenatchee Valley College, majored in beer, didn't do a lot of anything else. Worked hard. I worked at Mission Ridge putting in the first 2 chairlifts and building the lodge. Worked 3 or 4 different jobs around town, Pizza Inn, and just always kept busy. Finally I said, what am I doing? Wasting my time out to college. So I called the draft board and said I'd like to volunteer for the draft. And the lady asked me if I'd been home lately, because she said, we sent out an envelope to you last week. I said, come on down. So I went to Spokane on the train for a induction physical. That was the induction center then. And spent the night there. The next day we did all our physicals and testing, and later in the afternoon they said stand up and raise your hand and swore us in. And I do not remember from Spokane to Fort Lewis, but I was at Fort Lewis the next day. Started my basic training, had 8 weeks of basic training, 2 weeks of LPC class, which is a kind of a leadership preparation course. Thought I was going to be somebody. I qualified for West Point and all kinds of stuff, and in my intelligent era, I decided no. So I went on to AIT, and I volunteered to go to Vietnam. I wanted to go to Vietnam.
Oh, what was your AIT? Was it infantry?
Oh yeah, 11 Bravo.
That was at Fort Lewis too?
Oh yeah? That was in April, May, June, July and August. I had Fort Lewis, AIT. During AIT, they found out I was allergic to the plague vaccine shots. The first shot they gave us, I woke up the next morning, they thought I had chicken pox. So they locked down the barracks till they sent me to Madigan and found out, no, nothing contagious. Well, I can't go to the Orient, so I couldn't, ruled out Vietnam. So at the end of AIT, they were loading up guys and sending them off to the next step of training to Vietnam, Fort Polk and every place else, and I got sent to Germany. I don't remember going. I came home for a 3-day pass, went back to Fort Lewis, and the next thing I remember, I'm at Fort Dix, New Jersey, getting ready to take the big plane across the ocean to go to Frankfurt. Got to Frankfurt at the replacement center there, and they sent me on to Berlin. At that time, there's only 3 ways into Berlin. Fly in, military convoy, or what they call the duty train. You get on the train at Frankfurt, you give them all your IDs. They cross into East Germany, the Russians get on board. You get to Berlin, the Russian gets off, and they give you your ID back, and then you're there. You're surrounded by a wall. It's, you know, people don't realize what it was. The Cold War is not much to people anymore. But they told us our life expectancy was 35 seconds if all hell was to break loose. So I started out in the infantry there, fell down, hurt my knee. First sergeant said, go to sick leave. I just said, I don't want to go, it'll, you know, heal. He said, no, go. So I said, okay. So I went over there. They sent me up to the Berlin hospital. An old major who was a cert doctor up there, and he says, take off your shoes and your boots. Let's see what you got. He looked at my feet and he said, how in the hell did you get in the Army? I said, I was drafted. He said, you shouldn't have been with those feet. I have the flattest feet he'd ever seen. So they said, they gave me what they call a profile. It was a restriction of your duty. You could no long running, jumping, standing, marching. Well, when you're in infantry, what does that, there's not much left. So I was the company carpenter. I did all kinds of things. Had an inspection, IG inspection. The man came by and said, what's your job, son? I said, company carpenter. And he looked at the first sergeant. He said, there is no such thing. And they explained to him my situation. Nothing was said. About a week later, I get a call to go to the orderly room. They said, go to the Advocate General's office at 1 o'clock or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, I know the Adjutant General is part of the military police. What did I do that I don't remember? I got up there and he said, are you happy with your job? And I said, you're really joking, aren't you? This is, you know. He said, no, really. He said, would you like a new job? I said, okay, what is it? He said, tell me yes or no first. I said, sure. He said, go pack your bags. You will be going up to the embassy. It was a mission, U.S. mission at that time. It was not the embassy. The embassy was in Bonn. So I go back to my barracks. I pack all my stuff up in duffel bags and whatever else. A limousine comes to get me because I was being assigned to the security staff of the U.S. mission. So I went up there and put my stuff, and they had us in the upstairs little small rooms up above the guardhouse. 2 guys to a room. Was assigned to the security team for the embassy that time. And it was very, very interesting. Got to meet a lot of interesting people. Henry Cabot Lodge, some senators that were, one of them was running for president back then. I can't remember, he was out of Illinois. Just very interesting people. We were in charge of conferences. They bought us a suit so we could carry on at parties of a underarm guard. And then I did that for almost a year and a half. And I got in trouble because I was out on the curb waiting for the limo, handcuffed to a pouch to take it to the French embassy. This lieutenant came up and second lieutenant, what we affectionately known as Butter Bars, came up and started giving me some stuff about my status of my uniform and boots. And I told him to finally kind of go away. and he kept pestering me, and I said, you know, I can shoot you. My orders are, if you interfere with my duty, I can shoot you. So he left. I went to the French embassy, delivered my pouch, had him sign over on it, handcuffed, unhandcuffed me. Went back with the limo to our job. The E7 that we had in charge of us said, we got to go over to the general side, the Army side. And I said, okay, we've been there many times. It's all part of the same building. It's like a square horseshoe. Went over there, went into the general's office, and there's the second lieutenant. And they proceeded to tell me that I can't do that to this man, to an officer. I said, well, I can, and I'd do it again. And the general said, son, you're correct, but you're not correct. You can't do that, threaten to kill an officer. So he said, your job is done. He said, you're going back to the infantry. Well, it made me suffer because I had 31 days to go or something. So I went back to my old company, and they were going down to West Germany, Weilflecken, a place that I'm sure Howard is in fond remembrance of. And did 2 weeks training down there, went back to Berlin. Had 10 days to clear out. Signed papers, get everything changed out. Got on the bird and went from Berlin to Scotland to gas up. Scotland to New York. Couldn't land at New York, so we went to Montreal. Spent a night up at Montreal on the airline's ticket. And next day we flew down to New York and Fort Hamilton, New York, downtown Brooklyn or someplace. Never been such a place in my life. The guy I was with was from Philadelphia. And Hamilton was an open post, so you could just walk in and out like everybody was back before 9/11. He said, let's go. I said, okay. So he called somebody, and a car came and got us. We went to Philly to spend 3 days, and he had always told me his dad was a contractor, a masonry contractor. Masonry contractor in Philly, lived on a hill surrounded by a 10-foot fence of barbed wire and armed guards. His dad was in the group of people that were very fond family. Yeah, very interesting, you know. They were definitely mafia, and they just didn't like to say that. So we went back on the Monday morning, walked in and got our tickets and got out, went home. Flew back to Wenatchee and got off the plane and got off the bus in Wenatchee. Mom met me, and I got home, and Dad said, welcome home. 5 o'clock in the morning, we started working. So we did, started working again. So that's my claim. Went on to Alcoa after a couple of years of different building houses and stuff for people, with people. Went on to Alcoa, did 30 years. Got out of Alcoa in '01. Wasn't ready to quit working. So I drove school bus at Waterville for almost 6 years. Was on the ambulance crew at Waterville, same time. Went on from there to work for, what's the package service? FedEx. Did FedEx for a couple years, then I went on to Guardsmart, back in security. Got back at Alcoa, gate guard down there. And then they shut that down, and I went up to T-Mobile. They're putting in the new data center. Went up there, did that. One day I was coming off of work there, coming over to see my brother who was at the Harle Center, and a gentleman decided to take a left turn right in front of me, and I hit the back end of his van on my motorcycle. Got up off the ground, and the ambulance came, and I had blown apart my pelvis. So they took me to Harborview that night, surgery the next day. 10 days, 2 weeks at Harborview, took me to Leavenworth for 10 days. Then I had a hospital bed at my apartment for a duplex that I rented for a month and a half till I could get up and move around by myself, and then started getting involved with a couple of the guys, the veterans, and then we proceeded to Start NCW Vet Serving Vets, officially known as the Bunker. There's 4 of us that got involved with it. Still going strong. I'm very proud of the fact that we've been doing it for 18, 19 years now. Still going. Met a lot of interesting people there. Ask me something, Howard, please. Part of my job at the Bunker is I take people. I've taken many people to Seattle, VA. I've taken many people to Spokane, VA. A lot of trips, trips Tri-City when they send in what the people have to go for a third opinion on a disability claim. Did that, and then last year, 2 years ago now, 4 years ago, I had an aneurysm behind my knee. Went in and fixed it. No big deal. It was a little painful, but it was okay. 2 years after that, the same date, I had a little surgery for a AAA aneurysm up in here. Didn't go well. They nicked the artery. I had to get 4 units of blood. A 3-hour surgery ended up 11 hours. And people were getting kind of worried at home. No phone calls, no nothing. And so I spent a week there, came home on a Saturday. Monday morning, I was back in the ambulance going back to the VA in Seattle. Spent 7.5 weeks in that hospital bed. Lost 85 pounds, which is the good part. But I really got tired of being in a hospital bed. And limited. It really found out how old I am and what my limitations are anymore. Very limited. This morning I got up and was coming out the house to go see Kenny, get to Kenny, and I fell. My neighbor runs over to help me get up off the ground. So yeah, I'm limited, but doing the best I can.
Now, you volunteered at the VSO also.
Yeah, I came up here. I was in the Vet Corps Navigator program for 4 years. I worked up here with Tony for 2 of those 4 years, and at the Bunker as a veteran service officer, as a Vet Corps man. Yeah, so I did 4 years in that program. Wonderful program.
Now, could you explain a little bit what your foundation?
Oh yeah, in my spare time.
In your spare time.
I started a nonprofit organization called the Anton and Josephine Harle Memorial. I have a soft spot in my heart for kids, especially foster kids that don't have a home. And there's a lot of foster homes that aren't spectacular in taking care of them. So I started this nonprofit foundation to help get kids gifts and money, presents for Christmas. Because I figured that's the time when they find out, that they're not on the top of somebody's list. So been doing that for a few years now, still working on it. By past, I always ran 4-H programs for several years.
And you're a horseman too, aren't you?
I was doing that. I was in charge of the junior rodeo when it started up at Telecom Riders. A lot of kids, always something to do with kids. If you could give me an organization of kids and no parents involved, I always considered that to be pig shit heaven.
Yeah.
But parents get in and screw it up.
Is there any other thing you'd like to share with us, Mark? You had a pretty eventful life.
Well, I don't think it has been, but my dad, my hero, always taught me to work hard and do what's right. And to me, helping people is what's right. You don't have to do it for recognition. I don't. When the Bunker comes around and it's picture day, I disappear. I don't need my picture out there. I don't want front page.
You got such a pretty face, so I'm looking at it right here.
There's a lot of different opinions on that.
There we go.
But yeah, I don't regret anything in my life. I did have a long time drinking and anger issue. Got rid of it. I decided one day I wasn't going to drink anymore, and I didn't. I haven't. So I didn't want my kids and anybody else to see me like that anymore. And it led to fighting, and I worked at bouncing and stuff. So yeah, I don't regret anything, because everything you did was for a reason, and it helped you learn the lesson.
Oh, Mark?
Anything? I'm done.
Hey, I appreciate you sitting down and having a conversation. That was interesting. And you're a heck of a guy. I know firsthand on that. So thank you very much. I appreciate you sitting down.
No problem. You will edit this and do what you did with Ken. Send me a picture. You got any left? I heard that jar a couple times. River Ray.